What is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read? What is your
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Let's get ready to get into this. But before we do, I want you to know that I love you. And I wish God's best for each and every one of you. You don't have to know it. Know me. I don't know you. But I think we all have that particular thing in common, in my view. I love you. I wish the best for you. Now, remember to like, subscribe, comment, share the video, and set your notifications so you don't miss any of our content. Let's go ahead and get into this.
MSNBC host Joy-Ann Reid and a Tiffany Justice from the conservative group Moms for Liberty exchanged some barbs on air the other night when discussing book bans in schools.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read? What is your expertise?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family members. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so
Sure.
I'm going to answer
Please
for you. In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school? That's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No,
wait,
we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me questions.
Sure.
And I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Well, who is the main character? What's the name of the main character in All Boys Aren't Blue?
You're asking me right now.
You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert.
It's the gentleman.
Hold on. Who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe, is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're asking me to remember the name of an author.
You
the
just
name of the
remembered
author
very
doesn't.
specific things.
Joy.
Here's my
We're
question.
talking about.
Here's my question.
You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer.
Great. I would love to hear that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know that seems like an unfair gotcha for me that she can't name the character in the book. I mean, she's objecting to the content. I don't know this book specifically. The one with the sex toy, the dildo that someone is performing oral sex on, is an image. I believe that's for the book. The book is called "This Book Is Gay," and maybe the book "Genderqueer" also have that. That
All
do
Boys
not
Aren't
feel
Blue
appropriate
is
for...
I think the point that Joy-Ann Reid is getting at is that it's a biographical book where someone talks about the sexual abuse that they experienced as a young gay man at the same age that kids in school are ostensibly reading this book. And I think the question is whether or not, given that regrettably we live in a society where kids are abused, that go through these experiences, and there's been so much testimony from kids that say, hey, I didn't realize this was wrong. I didn't realize what I should do in this situation. I didn't realize how to advocate for myself until I saw my experiences elsewhere in the world in print or whatever it is. You know, the question is, why do you think it's so inappropriate for kids to have that outlet and for them to be able to perhaps advocate for themselves because of these books, if in fact they are experiencing those sorts of things? And you can feel differently about it, but for the context, also, Moms of Liberty has been pursuing these book bans across the country that have reached as far as trying to ban material relating to Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, banning books that are considered to be the foundation of American literature, like The Bluest Eye and Beloved, both of which feature scenes of rape as part of the lived experience.
I've not read The Bluest Eye. I have read Beloved. I would say, could you agree that not all of these books are appropriate for all ages?
Sure.
That doesn't say to me that they should be banned, but that parents who don't want, in particular, the book with the very graphic sexual images in it, necessarily available in school classrooms, they're public schools, that parents want to exercise some control over what kind of content. And I think we could save ourselves a lot of headache if we would just say maybe one or two, not books of substantial literary value like the works of Toni Morrison should not be banned. Although, again, not appropriate for, I wouldn't want third graders or fifth graders necessarily reading those books. I think they're perfectly fine for high schoolers.
Well, they're not assigned to third graders and fifth graders, but they are in the library, and I guess they're not chained up like deodorant in a CVS.
See, this is the issue that we're facing. Let's cut to the chase. At one time, America was considered a Christian nation. Yes, at one time. I do not consider it a Christian nation because if you compare the country's values, again, which is a melting pot of so many different religions and concepts, ideas, and philosophies, then you would know if you compare the American lifestyle, not just the wording. People get caught up in just the wording. I'm interested more in the meaning. What's going on behind those words? What's going on behind the facade? And so my personal consideration is this. Do you line up with the word of God? Well, many Americans will say, well, this is the land of the free, freedom of religion and those things, which it is, which I see it both as a blessing and a curse. The blessing is we can believe what we choose to believe. But we also are experiencing the cursing side of it, in my view. Now, you don't have to share that view, so don't start throwing stones at me. I'm not throwing stones at nobody. I'm just sharing my point of view. I believe that when you share any idea can impact future generations once the seed is planted and perpetuated and nurtured, okay? So the reason these books are being banned, at least from my perspective, is because of the content. What you're going to do is when you start talking to these children at 3, 4, and 5 years old, which is the intent of some parties, if not all, is to shape the mindsets so that by the time those children are getting into their early to mid-teens, they've already been indoctrinated that those ideas and concepts are acceptable. It is a norm. See, if I try to put my belief on people, I guarantee there's going to be a lot of pushback. Guaranteed. We all know that. So this is not a secret. It's not a surprise. What we're watching is a shifting, and it's been happening for years, okay? Probably in my lifetime, I would say over the last 20 years or so, longer than that, about 30 years. Over the last 30 years, the culture has really been going through a tremendous shift in our ideologies and philosophies. And now you go from, listen, you choose to live your lifestyle. I used to say this, and I still stand behind it 100%. Then we get back to the video, is you can live your lifestyle all you want to. That's between you and your creator in the comfort of your own home. You can make the decisions to do what you want to do with your body and all that kind of stuff, but don't legislate it. And that's exactly what happened, I believe, around 2015 when certain lifestyle choices started being legislated to where it was enforced for people to accept. I don't force my belief on nobody, so I don't want nobody forcing their beliefs on me.
So, I mean, conceivably, a precocious child could always wander into a different part of the library. I was a precocious reader, and I remember loving reading the more adult-leaning or teen-skewed Beverly Cleary books that were available because they were exciting and fun and more challenging and thicker than the books that were in my own age section. And there could be someone who said, "Oh, Brianna, at 11, you shouldn't be reading about high school kids hooking up during one summer on the beach in South Carolina," or whatever the heck her little teen, romance books were about. But, I do think there's a bit of an overreaction going on here. And the focus seems to be more on whether or not these broader state-level forces or national-level forces, national groups like Moms for Liberty, should have control rather than really talking about whether parents in the communities that they're getting involved in actually have concerns about their students and why this can't be handled on a more local level. Look, if a given school wants to ban Sula, ban Toni Morrison, I don't like it, but that's a very different...
I do know prayer was banned from school. Prayer. What happened? Prayer went out. Guns moved in. Prayer went out. Bibles went out. Promiscuity became a bigger thing. Drugs. Now, you can connect that. Now, some people are going to fight against that. Listen, to each his own. This is my view, okay? You have a different point of view. That's your business. Drop it in the comments. Be respectful, okay? Excuse me. But our core values have been under attack for a long time. And I know, again, in America, particularly because I live in this country, we have the choice. People keep saying, I have a right to choose this and I have a right to choose that. I personally disagree with you. You have a right to make any kind of decision you want to, because that's not right. If that's the case, if you have a right to make whatever decision you want to make, then you shouldn't be getting mad at people having a right to steal, a right to lie, a right to commit murder, a right to commit other types of harms, a right to do whatever. If we're going to use that term so loosely, this is why I say I'm more interested in the meaning of words, in the meanings of terms, what the person actually means versus what they say. Just like we got a political leader of this country right now who, when he ran his campaign to be president, he says, I will be a unifier, because the previous his predecessor was a divider in chief. He's going to be the unifier in chief, and I'm going to be he was the divider, I'm going to be a unifier. And have y'all not noticed how divided this country is in the last 3 years? I mean, it's horrible. People didn't get along like they should have before. But that's not just one administration to the next. That's been for God knows how long. But I'm talking about how heated, how the level is at now is much worse than I've ever seen. So anyway, you choose. You have a choice to make. We don't have a right to make bad choices, to make unwise choices, to make criminal choices, and then call it my right. I know some folks accept that kind of stuff, but hey, that's what you want to do, what floats your boat. But just understand, every single decision all of us make is either going to produce a beneficial outcome or an outcome, outcome that leads to some type of penalty. So if you have a right to make whatever choice you decide to make, then you also have a right to experience the outcome of that choice too.
Conversation than what Moms for Liberty are doing, where they're going about the country. Here's some examples of what they've been up to. They had problems with a book about Galileo because he was persecuted by the Catholic Church, and they issued a spreadsheet that said that they couldn't read about that story without counterbalancing praise of the church, saying, quote, where is the hero of the church? There was an attack, as I mentioned before, on stuff around the civil rights movement. There was a article about police brutality against civil rights demonstrators that was criticized for being too negative in its view on firemen and the police. Well, I'm sorry, that's historical record. I didn't tell those police officers to spray black people with fire hoses and stick their dogs on them. But when people push back and say these conservatives don't want to teach history, it's because of instances like this. You can't teach history if you don't want to ever acknowledge that police officers or fire officers or somebody in the United States of America was the one enacting the racism against black people and others.
They don't want to teach sex. They don't want to teach sexual tactics and behaviors in images to children. That's what the parents group is saying. They don't think those couple books belong where children can get them. No, we should not be banning books about Galileo or books of literary merit. I mean, I don't support any of these bans anyway. I don't even care really, but I can't. If parents do care, I think they do have a right to shape their child's education, to have input in the school system, and I can't just accept they just have to be mad about it, they just have to complain about it, they can't do anything.
There was an objection to a book about seahorses, apparently, because male seahorses carry their eggs, and they found that images of the mating cycle of seahorses was too, I guess, upsetting to their view of gender.
I mean, what is who is saying?
This is all
this is some random
the Daily Beast reporting.
Is this their?
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm sure there are unreasonable complaints associated with members of this very vast national group. That all sounds ridiculous to me. If they're trying to take books about seahorses off shelves, I would oppose it. I mean, I would ultimately say that that is bad and is a waste of time. But I don't find the more popular complaint that some of these books are a little graphic for kids to be that without merit.
I mean, I do wonder this. My parents knew what I was reading in school. My parents were teachers, and they checked in. And frankly, there were things that they weren't happy with because of the politics of that were not my parents' politics, weren't my family politics, and that were too conservative. And the goal was to manage your own house and teach your children what you want them to know. You're responsible for your kids' education ultimately, and you can weigh in on and tweak what they learn in school. And it's tough, but we live in a society, we live in a community, and everyone's not going to have perfection in terms of what they think their kids are going to be taught in school, unless of course you take them out and you homeschool them. You can obviously shop schools around if you're privileged enough to have enough money to send your kids to a private school, or privileged enough to be able to pick up and move to a different district, which of course is very expensive. But for the rest of us, we're going to have to all just go to our school board meetings, talk to each other in the community, and try to come to some mutual understanding. I don't know that forming national groups that are targeting a specific kind of ideology from a 10,000 foot level, as opposed to letting discrete communities resolve things for their own, is ultimately going to be for the betterment of a child's education or society at large. I have teacher friends that are currently teaching Giovanni's Room. I hate to break it to you, but it's a classic Baldwin novel about two gay men spending a lot of time in an apartment together, doing what you would expect. Teaching Kotze, The Disgrace, which very prominently features a gang rape. This is literature. These are classic novels that deal with difficult themes. People have complained for years. Some liberals complained about the use of the N-word in Mark Twain. People are going to have different thoughts about it from different political perspectives, but I do think that we should have a little bit more trust in teachers and trust in students to be able to take on the difficult subjects they're going to encounter soon enough in the real world.
Well,
But I disagree on that part. I mean, I get it to some degree in terms of being able to give trust to the teachers and to the students so that they can use their discretion on what it is. But come on now, let's be honest. The teachers, number one, they cannot come up with their own curriculums. Number one, I don't want to trust them if their convictions, their ideologies are different from mine as a parent. Now, I'm not a parent yet, but I don't have to be one to understand that it's my responsibility to teach my child what I believe they should know, because that's my responsibility. I have a right in that case that I'm being held accountable to God on how I raise my children. So I also have to then take full responsibility for making sure my child gets the right type of teaching and training if I'm sending them out there into the school system. If not, then I have to be responsible here at home for homeschooling them, which I know the system doesn't want one to do. But anyway, basically this whole argument is an argument of ideas. Joyless Reid, yes, I call her Joyless Reid because most of what I hear from her mouth, she's very negative, especially if you don't go with her ideas. Why is she protecting the homosexual agenda? Okay, or maybe it's not a homosexual agenda in this case, but why is she such an advocate that kids at that young age should be made privy to that type of information? I mean, I find it very interesting. Kids cannot get a driver's license till they're 16, can't start drinking till they're 21 legally, as they say. We can't vote until they have, I think, the age of 16 or something, 15 to 16, something like that. But yet you can shape their minds on sexuality at such young, immature ages. This hypocrisy. And when you, as an adult, try to protect or defend, and then the gentleman who wrote the book, I looked it up here a little bit, wrote the book called All Boys Aren't Blue, and it's having to do with his experience of being raped. That's not a pleasant experience, and many children don't go through it. I have heard in some other research that many have, but many don't. And so the kids that don't go through that, I mean, what kind of benefit is it for them? Is it something they should expect? I mean, we have to go down a rabbit hole of thinking, what good does that do in society? That type of book. And then you promoting it. But if I start promoting my ideals, I guarantee you the pushback is going to be very much hate-filled, guaranteed. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that this country is heading in the right direction or the wrong direction? Do you think it's okay for children, minor age children, to be exposed? First of all, I'm a heterosexual, okay? So I don't even think it's mature, responsible to talk to the kids right now about that stuff. Do you believe it's okay? Do you think it's acceptable for minor age children, for minors to be exposed to this type of information? Appreciate you for watching. And again, like, subscribe, and share this channel and set your notifications. I'll see you next time.